Anger. It's this fire we all feel. It can flash in an instant, and when it does, it can leave this trail of regret. But what if we could actually understand its destructive path? What if we could learn to master that flame instead of constantly getting burned by it? Well, let's explore how.
I mean, just look at this scene. We've all been there, right? A classroom is getting totally out of hand, the teacher's overwhelmed, and then, boom, they snap. At that point, they're not teaching anymore, they're just venting. They've lost control, their rational mind is completely checked out, and we all know what comes next: regret. It's a really powerful and, let's be honest, all too common example of anger in action.
This isn't some new problem we just discovered. This piece of ancient wisdom lays out a super precise, step-by-step map of exactly how anger hijacks our minds. See, it's not just one big emotion, it's a chain reaction. And understanding that chain, well, that's the first step to finally breaking it.
So, how does this spiral actually work? Let's trace the path and see exactly how one negative step leads directly to the next, pulling us further and further away from our better selves.
Okay, this sequence here illustrates it perfectly. It all starts with anger, or what's known as Krodha. This anger then creates Sammohan, which is basically a state of delusion. From that delusion, our memory gets all confused. It makes it really hard to remember our values or even see the bigger picture. And that final, really dangerous step, a complete loss of reason. So let's start at the very beginning. Krodha, anger. This is that initial spark, is that raw, emotional gut punch you feel when you think you've been wronged or you're just totally unheard or frustrated. Just think of a time you felt that flash of heat. That's it. That's the trigger for this whole chain reaction. But right here, this is where things get really, really critical. Anger gives birth to Sammohan, or delusion. It's like this thick fog that just rolls into your mind, completely clouding your judgment. Suddenly, the person you're angry with is the enemy, and any chance of seeing their side of the story, it's just gone. So, in that critical moment, right between that first spark of anger and the fog of delusion, what do? Well, it turns out we have a choice. A choice between two very different paths that lead to two very different outcomes. On the left, you get the path of reaction. It's defined by losing control. Your rational mind just vanishes, and yeah, it almost always ends in regret. But now look at the path on the right, responding with dignity. Here, you acknowledge the feeling without letting it control you. You use silence, you maintain your self-respect, and you act with clear intention. So different, right? So how do we actually choose that better path? Well, it really comes down to these three simple but, believe me, incredibly powerful keys. First, acknowledge the anger is there, but don't act on it, not right away. Second, use silence as your tool. And third, once that initial emotional wave has passed, you respond with dignity. Now, I really want to focus on that second key, because it is the secret weapon in this whole process. It sounds so simple, but the power of silence is it's profound. What if I told you that the most powerful tool you have to fight this is something you already possess? And let's be super clear here. Silence is not weakness. It's not about suppressing what you feel. It's a strategic pause. Think of it like a circuit breaker that stops that emotional surge from completely overwhelming your rational mind. In that quiet moment, you stop the spiral. You seize control. It's where you literally take your power back from the emotion. And here we see it in action. Remember our teacher from the beginning? Well, in this version of the story, she feels that anger rising. But instead of exploding, she acknowledges it. She uses that moment of silence as a tool. And the result? She's calm, she's in control, and she's able to respond with the dignity that her job and, frankly, her students deserve. Think about it for a second. When was the last time you were really angry? How could just a moment of silence have changed that outcome? So after all of this, what's the one thing you should really take away with you? Look, anger is a natural human emotion. The goal isn't to become some robot who feels nothing. No way. The real skill, the real power, is recognizing that spark when it starts and having the tools to keep it from becoming a wildfire. It's all about stopping that spiral before you get to the point of no return, the loss of reason.
So the next time you feel that heat rising, what are you going to choose? An impulsive, damaging reaction? Or will you use that powerful moment of silence to craft an intentional, dignified response? The choice is yours to make.